Rama here. Joining us, we have Insidious Gaming Management. We have Nelson, the manager for Insidious Gaming Legends, and over here we have Dexter, the eSports director for Insidious Gaming. So for the first question, I will be asking Dexter, how do you feel the eSports scene in Singapore is doing?
Generally, the esports scene in Singapore is it's growing. Okay, I wouldn't say that it's not moving anywhere. Okay, just that it's can be a little bit difficult to kickstart anything from here because there are many commitments. Okay, from studies to national service to parents, just to name a few. So while there is definitely room for improvement, okay, at this point of time, I would say that the esports scene in Singapore has much to work on. So yeah.
So do you think in the future the Singapore scene will actually get better? But in order to get better, right, we have to get rid of all the commitments like what other countries they have actually do. Like they treat it as a full-time job and people respect the job. And do you think this is possible for Singapore?
For this to happen, it actually has to go. Everything has to click together. Okay, I mean there's no one avenue where you can move forward without the rest not catching up as well. So, for example, if let's say I want to play competitive sports in general, okay, I need to be able to commit myself. I mean, it is within myself to make this happen. At the same time, also, I need to know how to micromanage my time between other commitments here and there. And likewise, okay, it is not just me alone. The community has to also be behind us in order to support the competitive scene in Singapore. And this can be further aided with, say, organizations like ISG and others to just to say as it is, along with say maybe with backup from companies as well willing to invest. Okay, but companies is not such a major thing. It still boils down more on the individual themselves. So if they are willing to see it through, willing to really prove themselves, then yes, I can see Singapore having people performing the world stage. I mean, notable examples are like HYHY, Ice, and even our own LL scene is Chawi, who actually went from SGS to TPA right now. So yeah.
So from your experience, is it more important of an individual commitment rather than the how you manage the player and how the organization does things for them that will actually create a path for our local professional gamers?
Yes, like I mentioned earlier, I mean everything has to click. I mean it's not just the individual, but everything starts from the individual themselves, because if they don't if they don't even commit themselves, if they are not able to get out from their comfort zone and be prepared to sacrifice, just about everything, basically time, effort, money, friends, everything, then yeah, you're going to be limited to how committed you are. And there are clear examples already featured in documentaries, how they actually risk and sacrifice, everything, from even facing, animosity from parents themselves. So until we Singaporeans are willing to step out of our comfort zone, then only then we'll see something a little bit more than what it is right now.
It seems that it's actually really quite difficult for Singaporeans to actually be a professional gamer unless they are actually committed to it, and we have actually a few success stories like what you mentioned just now, Chawi, HYHY, but eventually, like what you look at HYHY, right, eventually he also didn't continue with his pro career, but he might make a comeback, who knows. So do you think that this pro career, even if you are successful, it wouldn't last long?
Sorry, I mean your question being?
It's like after you have actually reached your peak and then you have actually went over the period, right, and then you don't have the infrastructure, for example, to become a coach or become a team manager from that point. So after being a player, they got no more perspective anymore. So do you think that is actually also one of the more crucial part?
I wouldn't say it's more of them having no choice, but it's rather limited by their commitments. You know, I mean, time and time again, you know, university life, work life, and then when you're talking about having a girlfriend and marriage, it kind of gets a little stifling for them. So it really it boils down to them being able to micromanage between studies, between national service, and you know, and even spending the time all this. I believe that you know, if you want to invest in something, you will really do whatever it takes to see it through. And unfortunately, I mean, we have not really seen this sort of you know, committed people as of now. Okay, bar the few examples that we made mention of. Okay, it'll be interesting to see down the road. Okay, to see whether or not any individuals who would want to make a difference for themselves. Like I said, I mean, the Singapore scene is growing, but how far it will grow, it really you know, comes down to them themselves.
Okay, so let's zoom in onto your LOL team who have recently made big news because they have actually won again from your organization the TLC summer season. So this question will be for Nelson. Why do you think that Insidious Gaming is able to win the TLC summer season for more than once, and they are actually one of the favorites and the more consistent teams in the TLC?
Well, firstly, I think unlike the main Garena teams like SGS or KLH, the biggest point is that there is not a lot of pressure from the public. So like for example, when SGS lost, you can see like there are like thousands of comments, thousands of fans like flaming them, and this affects the players' performance and their mindset. And on the other hand, we feel that our training methods are more, let's say, more constructive compared to maybe Singapore Sentinels. It's because that every player has their own input and they have a choice like how the team works. Well, to my knowledge, the Garena teams, they have to strictly follow their own coach's ideal of playing, which is might not be the most efficient.
Oh, so okay, this is quite new to me. You mean that for Garena team, they actually listen to the higher up more rather than listen to the players more?
Because for the Garena teams, they have they specifically have a coach, and for SGS, if I'm not wrong, they have a Korean coach, and they have Kai Ling who also acts as their second coach. And those people have a say in how they play, what they play, and everything they do. And because they have such a extremely strict schedule, which they attempt to mirror the Korean schedule, which is like just train, eat, train, and sleep, which I feel it won't work that soon in the Singapore scene, because I feel that our esports scene is not that developed to go to that stage yet.
Okay, that's really interesting because okay, from IGL perspective, right? I know that you all do not follow the sleep, play, train, and sleep again, that kind of schedule, right? So, what schedule you all use that is so successful that even more practice also would not guarantee a spot in GPL?
I would say that our schedule is, the thing is, the group of players we have, they are all, let's say, extremely good friends. And for most of the professional Garena teams, they are not exactly on like friendly terms with each other. So that might be an issue. And for us, we are just fortunate enough that we have a group of friends and they happen to be the top in the server.
Friends can win GPL. Okay, never mind. Okay, so from your point of view, right, managing a esports team, what are the challenges or what are the things that is so interesting and different from other jobs?
It's like managing an esports team is like most of the time you're like being their nanny, and it's like you have to micromanage 5 players, their schedule, their emotions, and whether they will handle this job properly, because it's not that easy for me to like arrange scrims with like maybe arrange practice with overseas teams at odd hours and make sure that my whole team can make it. And we have to make sure that their training is actually conducive and they're not just wasting their time mindlessly playing the game like most of the amateur teams are doing right now.
Okay, great that you actually bring up that you need a conducive environment for training, because how do excuse me, how do Insidious Gaming Legends actually train, or your organization, how do you provide a better training environment for them?
Mainly during their trainings, which is usually held online at home, and there'll be a coach, and we'll be in a Skype call with the team, and we'll be around there to solve their arguments, and join in their discussions. So the main thing is there's an external opinion which the players respect, and that will allow the players to accept their mistakes more willingly. Because if your own teammate criticizes you and he himself didn't play well, you would most likely not take it. But if your coach and manager points it out to you, and you'll be more willing to accept it because you know that they are a neutral source.
It's also quite amazing that for us Singapore, we actually have this kind of esports scenes, and it's actually growing, like what Dexter has said. And for you, Nelson, do you have any other experience in managing an esports team before IGL?
Personally, yes. I have managed Absolute Legends, their North American team, and I was with them for like a month or so, especially when they came down to Singapore to play in the Intel Extreme Masters, where we got second place. And during that period, I helped them to plan their game plan, because most of their opponents are all, let's say, from Southeast Asia and Asia, and with them coming from America, they didn't know what to expect. But since I follow the scene extremely closely, I was able to help them out, and that resulted in them getting second place.
Okay, so Nelson, when you are coaching the Absolute Legends team, right, compared to IGL, is there any difference, or is there any how do I say? Is there, from your perspective, which one is more? How do I say? From your experience, how do you find coaching both teams is like? What have you learned?
From coaching Absolute Legends, their North American team, I've learned like how to manage the players with huge personalities, because on that team there are players with 10, 20, 100,000 followers on like Facebook, and I have to learn how to manage each of them individually, because like maybe your teammate is a extremely famous guy and you're just an average, not that well-known player, and you have to make sure that each player respects each other and make sure that they work well together as a team.
Okay. Maybe a final question for you, Nelson. You have actually said that you managed a few teams before, and I mean, you have said that you manage Absolute Legends, and now you are managing IGL. So, are you full-time managing them, or do you have other commitments like work or school?
Like 1.5 years ago, I was managing them full-time. Like from 2012 to December 2013, I was managing them full-time. It was my full-time job, but we had external sources of income at that time. But now, since I'm in the army, I'm not that free to micromanage the team. So I've passed some of the responsibility to the players and the captain, so that they have to arrange some of their trainings, their discussions by their own.
Okay, this is really interesting. From what I have done the interview in Singapore for all the League of Legends team, right? Their career seems to come to an halt, or maybe they end their career right after they receive their enlistment letter. So is it true for most of the team in Singapore?
Unfortunately, I think it's true because there's no way for us to defer our enlistment, and NS it takes a lot of our time, and for most people who do not get their 8 to 5 NS schedule, it's extremely difficult to keep up with the scene and continue playing. So I feel that NS is actually one of the deterrent factors for us to continue our esports career.
If you want to know more about NS, you can Google National Service in Singapore. Okay, so next I will move on to more of an organizational question. Other than the LOL team right now, do you have any other teams that is actually under the Insidious Gaming management?
Yeah, we do. We currently have a Blackshot team, CS Global Offensive team as well. We actually have our roots also in Malaysia. We also have an LOL team in Malaysia. And at this point in time, Dota 2 teams, we are also present as well, though they are taking a little break after the hype that is the internationals. Okay. So yeah, other than that, we will. That's our current active roster, and we'll be looking to having more active teams down the road.
So do you have a different like manager for each team? Like for example, Nelson is for IGL, and for King Tanks by you also have a different manager.
Yeah, we do. He's KDB Ash Dragon. Okay. So what he does similarly, he does exactly like what Nelson does. Okay. For KDB, there will be a slight change in the roster come for the new season. So yeah, I mean, it is pretty natural for this to happen. So yeah, keep a lookout for K-Tanks Buy as they look forth to have a new roster lineup, for the next TLC.
Okay, about the roster changes, right? Okay, I know that for Zeppy, he is leaving for NS soon, and how will you all scout for the new talent in IGL?
For Zeppy leaving the team because of NS, we already have a player, but he didn't play the finals because he had some medical condition. So actually Zeppy was like our super sub, which he did extremely well. But how do we find players? We usually just pick at the top of the local server, and most of the time the players will pick we will just pick the best players possible. But since the talent pool in Singapore is extremely small, it's like the players which join the top teams in Singapore are like they're just constantly rotating. They just change teams every season. But for IGL, we try to keep the core of our team. So I think that's why we're also that successful.
So you mentioned that you actually have a player beforehand before playing that game. Is that player Rapier?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, then what I want to know is about how did you all actually end up in the esports scene? So maybe you can start off with you, Dexter.
I've always had a passion for games. I mean, since young, it's just that how do I want to be involved in the games industry in general? I mean, it could range from designing games to esports and everything. So yeah, I mean, joining the Insidious Gaming organization just slightly more than a year back. Okay, it's a new perspective of me because I was so-called a competitive player back then in the early years, okay, for Counter-Strike. Then ever since then I moved on. I mean, as age goes by, I mean, I won't have the endurance or the skill sets in order to keep up with competitive gaming. So what I sought to do was actually to be part of a managerial role, and then after being assigned the job of esports director, so naturally I learned a lot more not just about LOL, but every other game as well. So yeah, I mean, jumping to the scene wasn't that difficult for me because I already had the prior knowledge back then. Okay, yes, like I mentioned, it's still rather new thing for me. I'm still learning. So hopefully, as the years go by, I become more and more, more adept at what I do, and that hopefully this translates to being a more, how you say, more hype for future aspiring people that is to come.
Right. For me, I actually started out as a writer for FC Legends, and that was when I was like helping them do the news articles for like what, €100 a month. And afterwards, we managed to get I recommended to the owner, like, why don't we just sign this Singapore team? So, which is like the core of the IGL roster right now. And so they joined FC Legends, and we played. And that time I was managing the two teams, the North American and the Singapore teams, and we played like my first ever tournament when I was the manager. It was the IEM Singapore. So that was kind of how I started. And after the tournament, they decided that I should just be the full-time manager for the Singapore team. And afterwards, the next season, when we left FC Legends because there were some contractual disputes. Insidious Gaming decided to pick us up, and the management of Insidious Gaming decided to just get me over as well, so that I could manage their LOL teams. Because at that time we had 3 LOL teams, if I was not wrong. So, and I've been here ever since, and I've been with this team since like November 2012. Yeah, so that's how I got into esports.
So before I close out this interview, right, do you all have anything you want to add, like shout outs or anything?
Okay, I'll leave shoutouts to the very end. Okay, what I'm more want to relay the message out is that for any upstart, any aspiring individuals or teams who want to be out there competing against, like, the top few in, say, within your own country, be it Singapore, Malaysia, or anywhere else in the world, they need to know that everything comes from the heart and soul, and the will to want to do it. If they don't possess that, then it's going to be very difficult for them to achieve just about what professional players are up there. I mean, with the current world's qualifiers now in play, I mean, this is tantamount to a team, that a group of individuals who have put in so much more sweat and effort to get to where they are today. So it is not that it's given upon them, but it's more like it's they had to work for it. So likewise, within our own country, within our own league, which is the Legend Circuit, okay, the same rule applies. I mean, if they want to be champions, it's not just about having being a top team, or joining or being a part of the organization that fuels the top teams. Everything has to start from their own selves, and in the hopes that they will get to somewhere more than where they are currently. One thing that I'm really happy for our Insidious Gaming Legends is that they have shown that that consistency and stability within a team, okay, has yielded much more potential rewards, as evidence between our ever since the start of this year. In fact, having a regular presence in GPL and winning the TLC as well. So to any aspiring individuals out there, all it takes really is commitment and the will to want it. Yeah. So as for shoutouts, I would like to thank Insidious Gaming as well, because they've given me the opportunity, to be part of this, this thing that we have, okay, and I'm really happy to be able to announce, that our Legends is really up there, among the top, in Singapore. So I know sponsors like Monster, because they have given us their approval in wanting to sponsor us. So like to thank them as well. Collaborators, we have a few. Okay, I'd like to thank them as well. Dayaku, Shippy Trilogy, because they have been the back end. they've been supporting us in indirect ways as well. So I'd like to shout out to them as well. And last but not least, to our players, to our fans, and our supporters alike, we hope that you keep supporting Insidious Gaming. We will look forward to the next season of GPL and TLC. We definitely won't let you guys down. We'll be looking to secure our champion once again for the next coming TLC tournament. So keep a lookout for us. Yeah.
This mainly for those who are aspiring to be in the esports scene. It's like you got to have the passion, and you have to work hard for it. Like personally, I've worked with the team for 1.5 years without pay. It's just the satisfaction you get, and only recently I've been getting regular pay, and I get a cut of the prize money with the players. So it takes a long time, but as the esports scene develops, I hope that not everyone will have to go through what I did, and it will be a more viable career path in the future.
Insidious Gaming is really helping Singapore esports scene grow, and people like Dexter and Nelson is also striving to their passion and also sacrificing their time and their effort, and it's actually working, because if the esports scenes didn't grow, right, 2Pro to Game also wouldn't be here. So I would like to thank Dexter and Nelson for their time here, and we would like to ask you to actually continue support the Singapore esports scene, and together as a community we can actually grow together. And for more coverage, please log on to www.2protogame.com.